Hi everyone, I'm Jaspreet Singh. I'm Microsoft Identity and Security Engineer. If you're using conditional access policies and have selected all users in the policies, this video is for you. Today, I'll show you the hidden risk of selecting all users in the conditional access policies and what to do instead. So, what all users really means. So, if let's say when we select all users, we select all users in, let's say you selected MFA policy and have selected all users. This means you are targeting not only all employees but also global admins or all admins, emergency account. Microsoft recommends removing this account from your conditional access policy. So when you create a policy, Microsoft recommends that there should be an emergency account that you should always exclude from conditional access policies. Service accounts. So service accounts are like you have SMTP relay. Automation identities means you are running some scheduled scripts, taking backups. You have third-party vendor that takes backup of your mailboxes. We cannot include these accounts. So if we enforce MFA on all our users, let's say we enforce select all users policy that covers everyone, and that will break the service, which means people may not be able to, so backups will not run because back service accounts do not understand what is MFA, what MFA is. So you have to exclude those accounts. Guest users will be broken. They won't be able to log into SharePoint online. Yeah. So let's talk about risk number one. So emergency access account lockout. Microsoft recommend excluding emergency access or a break glass account from your conditional access policy. So what happens is, let's say during an outage, right? Let's say you have selected all users and everybody in this tenant is included, and so you selected all users, which means no one can log in to this tenant until you call Microsoft, and Microsoft will help you, but that can take days or weeks to get you to resolve the incident, to get you access. However, if you have a break glass account, right, excluded from this policy, let's say you selected everyone, but you still have a break glass account excluded, which means this break glass global admin account to log into the tenant without contacting Microsoft and can easily restore the outage by turning off the policy. Device compliance failures. Let's say you have selected guest users, everybody is selected, and selected apply device compliance policy, right? You have selected device compliance and you need everybody in order to log in. You selected some device compliance requirement, let's say firewall, intra joint, and all those requirements. But since everybody is locked out, you cannot log in. You don't have a break glass account to log in. You are stuck in a situation where you cannot log in. Risk number two, service accounts. Majority of organizations, right, still rely on applications. Most common can tell you is, let's say, scan to email. You're running some other applications as well, backup jobs, right? SMTP relay. You're running a third-party application that run backups of your mailboxes every day. These service accounts do not understand what a MFA is, and you cannot set up a compliance policy on these accounts. You will have to exclude these accounts, service accounts, from the conditional access policy to make sure to allow them to log in. Legacy applications, you still have it. Let's say some applications which do not support scheduled scripts. Yeah, so let's say you're running some scripts to check the audit, to run the audit of the machines every day, or which machine is added, firewall is running or not running, let's say IP address, BG info. These scripts you're running, you have some custom built scripts that you are running on your endpoints every day, that will not run unless you exclude these accounts from a conditional access policy. This three is guest user. Guest users are some external users. Let's say you have a contractor, and this is your M365 portal. If you have selected all users, you cannot select all users because all users include guest users as well. Guest users means if you select guest users and you have a conditional access policy set to device compliance requirement, intra joint policy, intra joint and device compliance is not possible because since it is a contractor, he doesn't have a company owned laptop or device, which means he can log in from his personal laptop. When he logins from a personal laptop, which means he doesn't have to meet the M365 device compliance requirement, whether firewall is running or not. However, if you include this guest users in your conditional access policy, this means users users will not be able to log in. Their work schedule will be hampered and they won't be able to log in. Different location and B2B access collab block. Let's say you have a partner running, let's say you have a company, you have a partner website that is running, and he comes to here and update the data. But however, since you have included guest users, B2B collaboration and access as well, so the access will be revoked for these B2B users as well, because all users include everyone, right? Therefore, this is also one of the common risks that we also need to consider while setting up all users and ensuring that all users are not included in the conditional access policy. Risk for policy stacking, which means conditional access is additive. Let's say you have applied, this is the user, and you have two policies, right? One is for MFA, another policy device compliant. So it's additive, which means this user, if he tries to access to his laptop, he has to meet both policy. He has to meet both policies in order to gain access to this laptop, which means first MFA will be prompt. Once MFA is satisfied, then he can check whether device is compliant. If device compliance is done, then he can log into his laptop and start doing it. Otherwise, however, if he once satisfied, one policy is denied, his access will be revoked. He will be given an error and won't be able to do anything. Large scale lockouts. Let's say you've selected all users and you have some additive policy added. You have multiple policies running. Selected all users, which means everybody in your organization will be impacted. There can be a major outage, can cause serious troubles in the company. Therefore, we need to make sure we don't include all users. Let's say B2B, break class account, and contractors, others are excluded from the policy. The better design approach, which means separate groups. When you create a new policy, always make sure follow a pilot group. Test the policy with a pilot group. Take four or five users from each department to fully test the functionality of the policy. Once you're confident, deploy the policy to a large scale. But always do in batches, which means if you have, let's say, 100 or 20 users, let's say, rather than doing it at one in a big bang, like all users in one, no, never. That's not recommended. Always go with two batches. Let's say create two batches. Batch one, non-critical one. Batch two, critical one, right? Or before that, you already tested with a pilot group and you have confirmed that everything is working fine. One batch two, first read-only mode. To ensure policy is impacted, check the impact. It says block, deny, or success. Verify, log after verifying the logs, confirm, then do that. Exclude emergency account, which we already discussed. Break class accounts. Break class accounts should be removed from the policy. Always use report only, which we discussed. Separate policies by risk, rather than creating a one, because this is not a good practice that creating a one policy and making changes. One policy has all options. No, create separate policies. Let's say MFA for admins should have a separate policy. MFA for standard users should have a separate policy. Final takeaway, which means broad scope is equal to broad failure, which means always follow uh, a staggered approach, which means go with patches, apply a policy to all users. No, always separate groups for each department. It depends on your organizations and how you want to logically divide your organization. Let's say some companies have 100 users, right? They can they can do it according to the department branches they do have. Some company have wants to do it in like batches, non-critical, critical. It totally depends how you want to do it. But make sure, because one thing we always make a note of that, broad scope is equal to broad failure, which means if you're going to do it in big bang, you will have a larger scale impact on your organization, which you don't want. No one wants to do that, do we? Therefore, always go with a staggered approach. Make sure batches after applying policy to one batch, checking logs, ensuring checking with the users, ensuring they are able to access whatever they used to do it. They can do business as usual. Once they confirm, go with the second batch and apply the policy. But go with from non-critical to critical. That's what the issue is. We don't want to touch the critical one first. We should go with the non-critical one so that we do not start complaining. If people may start complaining, right? This is not working. Security must be intentional. That's also one of the common security practices that we must follow while implementing policies. That means rather than selecting all users, we make sure the policy we want to apply are applying to a selected and targeted audience only, rather than applying to everyone, because we don't want to break everyone, right? If we want to apply policy to branch only, let's say HR department, and selecting all users will not make sense, because our scope is too big. That can have big impact on the company. If you select one separate group for HR and apply the policy to HR only, that will actually that will be sufficient for the company, and their scope, their impact will be also limited. If you guys would like to learn hidden secrets of all users in the conditional access policies, I've written a full article on itblocks.ca. Labs are also available on f11.ca. Thank you guys.